Welcome to this town hall organized by Clean Water for All and the Children's Environmental Health Network. I am Nsedu Obot Witherspoon, Executive Director of the Children's Environmental Health Network and a co-chair of Clean Water for All. Today, October 18th, 2021, marks 49 years since Congress got serious about protecting clean water and passed the Clean Water Act. This landmark law was designed to protect all of our waters, from the smallest streams to the mightiest rivers, from pollution and destruction. 49 years ago, our rivers and lakes were contaminated by decades of pollution. The Cayuga River was so polluted it caught on fire multiple times. Clean Water Act helped to turn the page, ushering in a new era of healthier waters for fishing, swimming, boating nationwide. Thanks to the Clean Water Act, billions of pounds of pollution have been kept out of our rivers. The numbers of waters that meet clean water goals nationwide has doubled, with direct benefits for drinking water, public health, recreation, and wildlife. Healthier rivers support an outdoor recreation industry worth billions, delivering jobs and economic benefits to our communities. Our families have safer places to enjoy the outdoors, from urban river parks to fishing and boating in lakes and bays. As we celebrate this anniversary, we also must rally together to protect the progress made so far and to hold policymakers accountable. Many communities across the country, particularly low-wealth communities, suffer from lack of access to clean, safe drinking water, and this is an atrocity. This impact is serious to our public's health, especially our most vulnerable, such as children and pregnant women. 63 million Americans, which is nearly a fifth of our population, have been exposed to unsafe drinking water in the past 10 years. Everyone is impacted when there is contaminated drinking water supply, but children, pregnant women, and lower wealth communities are especially vulnerable. Young children consume more water per unit of body mass than older children and adults do, also placing them at high risk. Access to clean, healthy water should be a right for all, not just for those with the means. Solutions include investing in infrastructure, funding gaps in coverage, and especially not forgetting the needs of our rural and marginalized communities. Of course, full water-led service line replacement is the way to go, and many of our communities have already started making those replacement and those plans. Clean water is fundamental to public health. Water equity, just like health equity, is crucial to cultivating happy, healthy communities, where all are able to thrive and reach their full potential. I'm very pleased to introduce our speakers today, who will provide some brief remarks. First, we'll have Senator Tom Carper representing Delaware. We'll have Betsy Sutherland, former Director of Science and Technology at EPA's Office of Water and member of the Environmental Protection Network. Colin OMara, who's CEO of the National Wildlife Federation, and Thomas Tafoya, Colorado State Director of GreenLatinos. Thank you so much.
Hi, everybody. I'm Senator Tom Carper of Delaware, the first state. I'm glad to join all of you. In fact, I feel privileged to join all of you today in honoring the 49th anniversary of the Clean Water Act. Let me just start, if I could. I just want to thank each of you too, and a special thanks to the League of Conservation Voters for all the work that you do for our country, for all of us. We may write the laws in Washington and Congress, but it's all of you fighting every day for communities around our country that ensure we have clean, safe, reliable water and a hospitable planet. So thank you very, very much. Clean water is essential to life, yet I remember a time when many of the lakes, the rivers, and streams we all depend on weren't safe. At the very beginning of our nation, they were safe, but after we'd had a couple hundred years to screw things up, we did it royally, as you know. But I was born in Beckley, West Virginia. It's a coal mining town in the southern part of the mountain state. As children, sometimes my sister and I, along with other kids in our neighborhood, would play on the banks of Beaver Creek, which flowed right through our community. And sometimes we would catch the fish in Beaver Creek. We're never allowed to eat the fish that we caught. And the reason why is because some of the septic tanks that the nearby residents relied upon were not well maintained. And as a result, raw sewage would regularly seep into the creek. You don't want to eat fish caught from that creek. And we didn't. But several years later, I was deployed to Southeast Asia as a naval flight officer, and I would learn that the Cuyahoga River in Cleveland, Ohio, had actually caught on fire from all the pollution being dumped into it. A river fire flowing through Cleveland, Ohio. And just north of where I'd gone to college at Ohio State as a Navy Watson midshipman. But this fire heard around the world served as a wake-up call for our nation to get serious about cleaning up our rivers, our streams, and our wetlands. And Congress got to work. Congress enacted the Clean Water Act in 1972. I like to say with the support of President Richard Nixon, but actually it was over the veto of then President Nixon. The progress made since then to protect our waterways is visible and measurable thanks in large part to the simple yet profound standards in this historic law. But progress is not permanent. There's still more to do if we're going to deliver on the promises of the Clean Water Act almost a half century later. We continue to see, unfortunately, continue to see headlines on the poor state of water infrastructure in our country and its lack of resilience in the face of extreme weather and climate change. All too often, disadvantaged communities need to upgrade their water infrastructure, and they don't get the resources. They don't have the resources, and they need a lot of help in order to be able to do so. I'm privileged to serve as chairman of the Senate Committee on Environment and Public Works. I think it's time that we change that and make it possible for all Americans, regardless of their zip code and their station in life, have the opportunity to drink clean water. Earlier this year, I worked with Senator Shelley Capito of West Virginia, another native West Virginian, to pass bipartisan drinking water and wastewater legislation in the Senate. Our bill we passed it out of committee unanimously. 10 Democrats yes, 10 Republicans yes. We passed it on the Senate floor, 89-2. And that bill became the foundation of the bipartisan infrastructure framework that the Senate passed this summer. And that as I speak today awaits a consideration within the House of Representatives. We passed the drinking water, wastewater drinking water legislation by like 89-2. We passed the bipartisan infrastructure, which also include roads, highways, bridges, infrastructure like broadband deployment, ports, rail. Did all that. We passed it in the Senate by about something like 70-30. And now it's in the House. We're hoping that the House is going to wrap up its work on it and send it to the President pronto. But building on the Clean Water Act's progress, our bill will upgrade, our bill will modernize our nation's aging water and wastewater infrastructure systems and creating, while doing that, good paying jobs and healthier communities. Importantly, it does so by directly targeting those communities that too often get left behind, like Beaver, West Virginia, where my sister and I lived a long time ago. But as Congress works to pass President Biden's Build Back Better agenda, we're also fighting for greater investments in lead pipe removal and climate action as well. We all know that access to safe, reliable water isn't a blue state or red state issue, it's an American issue. And Congress recognized that when it passed the Clean Water Act all those years ago over President Nixon's veto. Now, as we work to pass a once-in-a-generation investment in our infrastructure, we would be wise to look to the legacy of this historic law to guide us in our efforts. A concluding thought, if I can, Delaware is the first state. We were the first state to ratify the Constitution. We did it on December 7th, 1787. But about 10 years before that, a fellow named Caesar Roddy rode his horse from Dover, Delaware. He'd been governor of Delaware. We didn't have governors in Delaware, we had presidents then. So he was president of Delaware, but he rode his horse from Dover, Delaware to Philadelphia to cast a tie-breaking vote in favor of the Declaration of Independence. And why is that relevant today? The words of the Declaration of Independence: life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. It's tough to have life, liberty, and happiness if you don't have clean water to drink. And for too many people in this country, they don't have that. They haven't had that in some cases for a long time. The legislation that we're working on now builds on the Clean Water Act to make sure that they do have that opportunity. For all of you that are working hard throughout the station to make sure that that dream becomes a reality, thank you. You're doing the Lord's work. God bless you all.
Hi, I'm Betsy Sutherland. I'm the former director of the Office of Science and Technology and EPA's Office of Water. I retired from EPA after 33 years in August 2017. And since that time, I've been an active member of the Environmental Protection Network, a bipartisan organization of EPA alumni working to protect the health and welfare of the American people. The Clean Water Act gives a significant authority to EPA and the states to reduce pollutant discharges from all point sources in the country. And they do that through both technology-based and water quality-based permitting limits. EPA has made incredible progress nationwide in ensuring that pollutant discharges, again, from the most well-known pollutants, are reduced because of technology-based permitting limits on all municipal and industrial wastewater treatment plants. The states then have the authority to set even more stringent permit limits on these point sources if those EPA technology-based limits fail to meet their water quality standards. States have been slower because that's a more complex process in setting these water quality-based permit limits. But in most cases, they have been able to control most of the well-known pollutants with water quality limits. As a result, most of the impaired water uses in the entire country are primarily due to non-point source pollution, which is not regulated under the Clean Water Act. In fact, many of our worst pollution situations are due to agricultural stormwater runoff, which is specifically exempted from the Clean Water Act. Another challenge that we have under the Clean Water Act is that though we have adequate authority to address newly discovered harmful chemicals, neither EPA nor the state have made much progress in addressing those in a quick fashion. These newly discovered harmful contaminants actually have been given a kind of an official term. They're called contaminants of emerging concern. And they really consist of natural substances like algal toxins, which are produced by harmful algal blooms, but also, of course, many man-made substances like pharmaceuticals, pesticides, industrial chemicals, and microplastics that find their way into the nation's waterways. And even though the Clean Water Act gives lots of authority to EPA and the states to address these newly discovered contaminants, really they have failed to do so. And the reason they've failed to do so is because we really lack a proactive approach to these newly discovered contaminants. We don't have a national list of priority contaminants that we monitor for, and we don't have a coordinated federal, state, and interstate monitoring program that proactively looks for these contaminants. Instead, we are really suffering from a fully reactive system where we wait for a public health or environmental crisis to occur before we race out there and start monitoring and trying to figure out if we need to control a newly discovered contaminant. We absolutely cannot let the next generation have to suffer years of exposure to toxic chemicals before we take any action. And again, unfortunately, that's the system we have right now. So I think it's actually imperative that EPA develop this national list of priority contaminants and really work closely with the U.S. Geological Survey and all our state partners to really institute a proactive monitoring system that looks for the most high priority, most toxic emerging contaminants. As soon as they identify them at levels of concern, then EPA needs to take action immediately to start setting technology-based permit limits for all point source discharges of these types of contaminants. And the states actually have their own authority. If EPA has not yet covered a particular contaminant in their technology-based standards, the states are fully empowered to set their own, it's called best professional judgment permit limits on industrial facilities within their borders. So certainly the states should use this authority. They have really not done so very frequently to date, but that's a new authority that states have always had the option of using, and they really need to do that, again, as quickly as possible in high-risk situations where they can't wait for EPA to take action on a national basis.
Hi there, I'm Colin OMara with the National Wildlife Federation, and it is just an honor to be with NSA and the entire Children's Environmental Health Network and all of our great friends at Clean Water for All. What a great celebration. I mean, the 49th anniversary of one of the most successful environmental laws in world history. I mean, the Clean Water Act. When you think about the amount of pollution that was coming from wastewater systems, from industrial sources, all those point sources, and how much has been reduced over the last 49 years, it is truly astonishing. You know, to think back when the Clean Water Act passed, that not only did it have incredible bipartisan support across the entire Congress, but that, you know, almost 2/3 of the waterways in this country were completely unsafe for fishing or swimming. Now there's about half as many as there was before. We still have a lot of work to do, but there's half as many as there was before. And at the same time, our population grew by almost half. And so, more people, yet so much less pollution, really proving that kind of a strong economy and healthy environmental resources are not in conflict in any kind of way. I want to jump on just for a second because I wanted to thank all of you for your incredibly hard work. It's been a rough few years. When you think about all the work that we all did together to try to strengthen the clean water rule during the Obama administration, just to see the Trump administration rip it down, and not even going back to before the clean water rule, but going back to levels or I can't even call them levels, a lack of protection that we hadn't seen in more than 35, 40 years was truly astonishing. And I just want to thank each of you for keeping up the fight in the courts in some cases, keeping up the fight with the administration, making sure this was a priority for the Biden administration. I cannot say enough about the leadership of President Biden and Administrator Regan, making sure that the clean water rule is going to be one of their top priorities. They've already started the process. I know the conversations are already underway, making sure we're protecting those important acres of streams, of wetlands, and the miles of streams that really need protection. We're at a moment right now where I think folks are really appreciating the value of clean water and the importance of it. We're seeing more communities that are crying out for investments in things like removing lead pipes. And obviously there's a lot of investments in those areas in the infrastructure package and the reconciliation package. We're seeing folks that want to have healthy wetlands. They realize the value of the wetlands when a hurricane comes through, like we saw with Hurricane Ida, or the flooding we've seen in the Midwest, where those wetlands provide incredibly important storm protection. They act as a sponge, holding millions of gallons of water that otherwise would be destroying communities, in addition to the filtration value they provide. When you think about the fires that we're seeing in the West, places that have healthier natural resources are having less of that pollution wind up in the landscape. And that's before we get to the 21st century challenges of like pharmaceuticals and different types of toxins that we really need to keep out of our waterway. And so I'm here to say a huge thank you, but I'm also here to kind of deliver the message that we got to go hard right now. This is one of those moments where it's going to be incredibly important that we help the Biden administration have the strongest rule that's humanly possible. We have great champions on the Hill, folks like Senator Carper, the chair of Environment and Public Works, my senior senator here in Delaware, where I'm coming at you from, as well as Peter DeFazio, the great chair of Transportation and Infrastructure in the House. We have great champions. We have an amazing coalition. We have great partners, but now we got to get the work done. We got to make the case that in this environment, that clean water needs to be a priority, that having healthy, safe drinking water is incredibly important, having healthy wetlands and stream segments that are fishable and swimmable and drinkable. It should be a top priority. And I'm confident we're going to get there. And so happy 49th birthday to the Clean Water Act. Let's make sure that over the next year, we make the 50th anniversary, the 50th birthday, one we're incredibly proud of, because we finally reached the promise of the protections that we need to make sure that clean water for all is truly a reality. Thanks, everybody. Have a great celebration.
Hola, bienvenidos a todos. Welcome to everyone. My name is Thomas Tafoya, and I am the Colorado State Director for GreenLatinos. GreenLatinos is a national environmental justice and conservation coalition working for our collective environmental liberation. I couldn't be more excited today to be celebrating the 49th anniversary of the Clean Water Act, and I actually chose this location where I'm standing here on the confluence here in downtown Denver. This is actually the site of the original indigenous peoples, the Ute, the Cheyenne, the Arapaho, more than 48 tribes that called Colorado home. This is where Denver was founded, but these communities still exist and persist and have sincere concerns when it comes to water access. And so I hope that you can join me in acknowledging indigenous peoples, and that means taking direct action to improve their lives. Now here in Colorado, why were there so many people? Because there's so much abundance, so much biodiversity, because we are the headwater state. There are so many people who get their water from where we are here in Colorado, and we have a deep responsibility to protect that water so that we can make sure people get access to water and that farmers can grow our food. Now, I know it's the 49th anniversary of the Clean Water Act, but I really want to let you know that people taking on pollution in our water really dates back to 1949, and that this has been an effort across many generations and many people. But collectively, we've done a great job in working to progress and protect the water that we all drink. Now, of course, there are equity concerns. People are paying high costs for water. Their water quality is low. We need to be working to lower costs, improving water quality. And I want to emphasize to everybody that water access and water equity doesn't stop with house keys. There are many, many, many people here in Denver, Colorado, and across the country who are experiencing lack of access to water and sanitation, which I remind everyone is a United Nations human right that every single person deserves. Now, just 1 mile north of here, you'll see individuals whom are living unhoused along the riverbanks without access to sanitation. Just 1 mile north of here, you'll begin to see the degradation that happens from industrial polluters who have gotten away with polluting our rivers for far too long. I'm here to tell you that Green Latinos nationally and here in Colorado is working to protect this community and all communities that are being subjected to toxic pollution. We can do more. And I do want to say, as a headwater state, I have to raise the alarm about climate crisis. We need to be having the conversation about the intersections between water and climate. Now, there's simple ones like how much water is going into fossil fuel extraction and how is that leading to toxicity in our water. But you know what? Less water means shorter growing seasons mean harm for farmers in our communities, the people who are growing our food. Less water means lower flows and higher concentrations of toxicity, which could lead to disaster for our communities. It also means lower flows are hurting the animals. You know, we know that we have to live in a very good, ecologically sound way, and that starts with protecting the people and protecting the water and all the creatures that live in it. You know, here in Colorado, much like the West, we face terrible forest fires. And what people don't really understand is those forest fires threaten our infrastructure afterwards. They threaten our water quality afterwards for years to come because the flash flooding leads to degraded water quality and endangering our infrastructure. I want to say just, you know, we have huge fights that are on our doorstep when it comes to recycled water, to reclaimed water, to produce water from facilities. We know that the Clean Water Act can do a lot to protect us. I want to commend everybody out there for celebrating today. We need to make this a holiday that everybody understands because water is life. Today we can have clean water for all. I welcome you to follow us to become a water protector. And what does that mean? It means building a relationship with water just like this. It means coming here when you have pain. It means coming here to keep it clean. It means coming here to respect it. So I hope you'll join me in protecting water. And again, just have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much to all of our speakers today. We really appreciate your leadership. For more information on the Clean Water for All Coalition, fighting for common sense protections in clean water and public health, please go to protectwater.org. We'll also have a lot more information regarding the 50th anniversary of the Clean Water Act coming up in 2022. For more information on the Children's Environmental Health Network, we welcome you to go to cehn.org. And then there's also a video on the Clean Water for All page that talks about why the Clean Water Act and has more information for you there. And we just want to encourage all of you to continue to stand up and stand out for the vital needs for access for clean and healthy water for all uses. Thank you so much.